Hello, everybody. Welcome to the channel. Sorry, I had to make sure my microphone was working. In this video, I'm going to explain how I got into computers. To start off with, ever since I was younger, growing up, I was always messing with things like that, computer-wise. The first computer that we had, me and my family had in the house, was something called a Packard Bell, which now known as HP. It was Hewlett and Packard Bell merged, became HP. These was the original all-in-one. What does that mean? That's everything's all in one. And this was a CRT, and you had the CRT, and then you had the VGA cable come out the back side and go to the card. The only issue with that at the time was all-in-ones were brand new at the time, and what would happen is this particular computer would freeze. It'd do all that, and actually we had two Packard Bells. My dad had the mid tower. My mom had the all-in-one, and this was in the 90s, actually mid 90s, I should say. So not everybody had, like you do now, your whole family each has their own computer and all that. It wasn't like that back then. So that was the first computer that I used in the house. Now, the first real computer I used, was the old XT with the mechanical keyboards and MS-DOS. Now, mind you, I grew up in the 90s, so that was the thing to do. So, and my very first desktop computer was a Compaq Presario. That was my mom's computer. And my sister at the time convinced my parents, hey, can we get the computers? They said, yeah. So the Compaq Presario was my first own PC, mid-tower desktop. Now, this is where things get a little interesting. I wanted to upgrade the memory in it. Now, mind you, I'm still in high school at the time that I did this. I would never do this now. So what I did was I bought some memory and it didn't fit. So what I did is I took an X-Acto knife and modified the chip, which you do not do no matter what because there's power going through it. And if you guess right, yes, I blew the motherboard up. So I was without a computer for at least 3 months because I didn't have a job at the time. And so basically what had happened is my dad at the time had someone who built his computer, so he was going to build mine. So I had to use my mom's HP at the time, running Windows XP Home Edition. That was a computer my sister got after a cheapo build one. So I messed with both of those. So this computer that I had and I messed around with a little bit, I had till about 2009. Then I got an E-machine, which didn't work out too well. I think I gave that to my mom, if I'm not mistaken. And then that died, and then we bought her another E-machine, and then that died, and then she bought the laptop, so I played with parts and all that, but the parts were bad, so I had to get rid of it. So this was a little later with the E-machines. Now, when I was 14 years old, since I'm in Los Angeles, I went to a middle school called Patrick Henry Middle School. If you went there, there is a PE teacher, I'm not going to give his name due to privacy reasons. He set up a fitness center over there. So what I'm about to tell you is how I actually got into building the computers themselves. Okay, so he bought 3 DDR cabinets. Now, for those of you who don't know, DDR stands for Dance Dance Revolution. And at the time, they were cabinets. The one ran Third-Mix Plus, the other ForceMix Plus with the ForceMix header, and DDR Max. Now, at this time, this is the only place that I had played it, and I was curious about the machines and all that. So, the next stop was the arcade up the street, which is, at the time, called Family Fun Arcade, which unfortunately the owner shut it down back in 2013. I was still going to Patrick Henry at the time I started going there. So he had the machines there, and I was super curious about the machines, and he had one out a little bit. And I looked behind her, and I put my ear up to it to listen to what's going on. So, and all of a sudden I'm hearing what I thought was a DVD drive at the time. Mind you, I'm still in high school, so I haven't had my training yet. So, and I look in, and it's a CD-ROM. I'm going, okay. Well, this CD-ROM is the same CD-ROM drive that's in a G3 Power Mac. Same drive. So Konami had a deal with Apple to supply the CD-ROM drives for what I later found out is the Membani 573 system that these use. It was DDR, it was Drum Mania, it was Guitar Freaks, all use that system. This is when I learned not all computers have a hard drive. There's something called a express card. There's several different names for it, but the newest one is Express Card. The original name is PCMCIA card. There's version 1, 2, and 3. In this case, these machines use version 1 to store the options such as free play, credits, difficulty, and language options as well. And I was like, this is where, if you hear me say Linux Live CD, I figured this out actually quite a bit after. And what those machines do is you have the disk. When you boot up the machine, all the lights come on and you see these numbers and you see okay. So it's checking the ROM chips. Well, without that disk, it just flashes. So what happens is all the information, this is where Linux Live CD came from, downloads into the memory of the system. And you go, So I figured that out, and I didn't know what it was at the time. I figured that out some odd years later. So, getting back. So, and after that, I went to a place called Mount Asia out in Santa Clarita, California. If you've ever been there, it's a really cool place and all that. And I've gone to Castle Park too. But so, and they had a fifth mix out there, and it seemed kind of weird to me because it had different. It still used a disc. It was still a CD-ROM and all that. So, fast forward and going back to 2005, there is a game called ITG that just came out. It's called In the Groove. It's another dance machine. This is particularly interesting. You get no cabinet, and it's a conversion kit for your DDR cab. Well, I thought it was a disc, just like what Konami supplied in the Bemani 573 system. It's not. It's a full-blown computer, separate, different company. So what it is there's something called a JAMA harness, and you plug it into that. Now, this is where it gets interesting. ITG was one of the first dance machines to use a hard drive. And what's weird about this is when you turn it on, power on, it's called the Boxhor, which is the computer. It uses 2 gigs of DDR2. And it had a very low capacity hard drive because it ran Linux. And I couldn't figure out how this worked. Well, I figured it out later. But what this did is when you turned it on, you didn't see anything on the monitor. The cabinet would power on, it would light up, the I/O would initialize, and all the lights went off, but you saw nothing. And I'm like, why is it? The frequency of the Boxor and the frequency of the original Toshiba 29-inch monitor had different frequencies. Now, if you remember the old CRTs, when you turn it on, you would get that image fading onto the screen. That's what would happen with the Boxors. Now, if it was the Bemani 573 system, it would just be on, because the cabinet has its own board. So it was expecting the Bemani 573 system. And what would happen is with the Boxor would have to fake the signal to the cabinet board and I/O board just so it would initialize. Yes, you could boot a game without initializing it, but the stage lights would stay on, and it's completely annoying. Now, I found that out further down the road, but that's when that happened. Then there's a game I found out between there and ITG called Pump It Up. Now, that company, Andamiro, I found this out in 2005, created the Dedicabs for ITG. It's a modified PIU-GX cabinet, which is a type of model cabinet. Now, me being into computers and stuff, I'm like, hey, how can we do this and do that and all that? So, if you fast forward to modern times, I would love to go to my local Dave & Buster's and take out the PIU-XX hard drive, install another hard drive, install OpenITG, turn it on pump mode, and modify things. That's how I think. So, going back to 2005, I kept going, I kept learning, doing this, doing that. 2007 was a year and a half after I graduated high school. I wanted to go to school for this. Parents were like, all right. So, I waited a year, a little more than a year, which was not a good thing to do. I realize that now. But at the time, it didn't matter. Now it would. So, I was going to school, and this is where things have changed. The U.S. economy went bad. So, before that, I went to a school called North Valley Occupational Center, which is in Mission Hills, California. And I went there twice. There's a reason for that. And I did this and got my A+ certification. I got it before you had to renew it every 3 years. So it's valid for life. When I tried to go get a job at the time, it was very, very hard because the economy was bad. Businesses were merging. IT departments were merging. A lot of companies got rid of their IT departments who were using third party and what they call in the field. And I didn't want to drive around. And unfortunately, at the time, I didn't have the most reliable car at the time. So it wouldn't have worked out anyway. And all the jobs I could find were, I'm not going to complain about pay. I'm a beginner. Hey, that's cool. What happened was they wanted me to drive like 300 miles a day. And if you've never been to Los Angeles, traffic is horrible. If it takes you 20 minutes to get somewhere, you're doing good. And traffic is just horrible. And, I tried to find places close to me and didn't work out. But and ironically, this is how this channel became about, to get a job. So, and it actually worked, but it also was against me as well. So, 2007, I finished that particular part of schooling in 2010. So I was 22 years old. I'm 32 now. So I was 22. I'm like, it took me 2 tries to get it, got my certification, tried to get a job, and what I just said, that's what was happening. So, 2010 was around, 2011, 12, 13, 14, which is, I had to get a more reliable car at that time. 2015, 2016, I managed to score a job. Um, it was at a mom and pop place. I'm like, hey, cool. Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4. Cool. Not gonna name the place for legal reasons. So what this particular place did is the owner repaired printers. He repaired more printers than computers, and I figured I would be the computer guy, he would be the printer guy. Well, I had to learn how to repair printers, which was actually really cool. Unfortunately, with this place, we didn't see eye to eye, and I had to leave. It was just easier for me to leave. So, from then on, I was trying to get another job, and I couldn't. So, if you're wondering how many years I have messing with computers, it's been a long time. Actually, it was before I started going to school. And after that, I started repairing my own friends, families. And I've been doing that for 10 years. Now, I don't know all the software that's out there. There's a few people that know more software than me. And every IT technician knows a certain procedure to get things done, which is really cool. So, unfortunately, I only have a month because I could not get another job. Now, do I still mess with stuff? Yes, I do. I do it all the time. That's why you watch this channel. Now, I just want to explain how I got into it. How I got into it was through the arcade games. And especially the dance machines. That's what got me to build it. Wanting to build, wanting to learn, wanting to do this. And it worked. So how this channel came about was, before I got the job at the mom and pop place, I was having a hard time finding a job, as I was saying. So I did this channel to get a job. Well, even though that job didn't work out, I just kept going and going and going. And for me, it's a satisfying thing when somebody asks me a question saying, hey, how do I do this? Or how, I have a simple problem, but I don't know how to do it. And I explain to them, you do this, this, and this. Or if you have this, you do this, this, and this. So that is the story on how I got into computers and how long I've been in the industry. So, anyway, that is it for this video. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and click that bell for more notifications.